Hello there, folks. Hey, this is Joe Wazoo here today. Today I'm playing with a Mix 4 IO card for Red Lion, or from Red Lion, for the Flex Edge product. And I have always wanted to connect voltage outputs to voltage inputs and a current output to a current input on the card just to see what happens and so forth. So I've got the Mix 4 IO card. This is the card I have right here, and it's connected to a DA70, and I'm running some code here, and I'm using the two outputs here to do the signal to inputs 3 and 4. And so if I go over here to my web server, and which we're going to play with, and if I show full screen, there's a picture of the product that I've got connected up. You notice the black wires. I should have made those blue because that'll match my drawing. But the black wires are the common. They're all tied together with these Wago 221 blocks. Really like those. They're really nice. And then I've got the green wire here that's going to indicate the current loop here. And then the red wire is going to be the voltage loop. And so that's what's currently on my desk here. And I'm using, folks, I like to use solid core wire for this. I use the same stuff for the irrigation wiring. Works great for this. So that's what I'm using here. So let me go ahead and shrink that down. And if we do a demo, uh, what I've got is here's the web server running here. I'm going to go over here to Crimson real quick. Maybe I won't because, huh, well, that's weird. All right, for some reason I couldn't click on the program, but I got the Crimson open here, and just want to show you the I/O modules. Uh, I've been working on using output 1 is a 0 to 20 milliamps. Output 2 is set to 0 to 10 volts. If I use input 3, that's 0 to 10 volts here. And input 4 is my 0 to 20 milliamps. I do want you to notice that I'm leaving all of these settings by default. There is something interesting. Let's see if I can do this time. If I go over to a different Crimson 3.2 database, I haven't started, but just to show you something, if I do modules, and if I add this module, I'm going to pick the Mix 4. That's what I have. I'll click OK. Crimson, of course, will ask you to recompile, so I'll commit the changes, which will add the I/O modules down here. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Say yes. And now I got the modules. This is something I find interesting. Is here is the default settings on these on the cards. So everything, all the inputs come in as 0 to 5 volts. Just want you to point that out. And the outputs are 0 to 10 volts. So this is something I thought was interesting. If I change this to a 0 to 20 milliamps, notice this, folks, stayed at 10 milliamps. So if you were testing this right away, even though you change this to 0 to 20 milliamps, the maximum here is set here. So really, I think this needs to go to that number if you're going to do 0 to 20 milliamps, or if you wanted to do 4 to 20 milliamps. Here's another. I just changed it 4 to 20. So I think this needs to go 4.00 here to actually do that. So that's something to interest or to think about. Also, I never change the data high and data low here. I always leave these default. And really, this is an integer number, 0 to 10,000. So I always leave that, even though it looks like a floating point, and they got this decimal point. In reality, we treat this as an integer. So it's 0 to 10,000. So I just want to point out to you these settings. I have a little bit of a problem with this when I change this. I think these should change, and they don't. So pay attention to that, folks, when you play with these cards. All right, let's go back to our example here. Let's see if I get my web server to work. Okay, so I'm going to click the current wiring, and there's the green wire. If I go back to the screen, that is this green wire right here going between those terminals. And I'm showing here that I'm taking terminal 13 here, analog output current, and I'm plugging that into input 4, 4 to 20 milliamps here. So this is here. So if I click here, and I don't have any limits here. I'm playing completely default. So if I put in 5,000, you're going to see that the analog input jumps up to some number 5,000. Okay, no big deal there. Let me turn that off. let's look at the voltage here. So if I click the volts wiring, you can see here on analog output 2, I'm connecting pin 15, V plus output here, is going to the 0 to 10 volt input on input number 3. So I was playing with this earlier, but if I change this to a different number, you can see it works. And of course, the comms wiring is here, and if I show the picture, that is the black leads here. They're all tied directly together with this woggle block here. So that's the COM wiring here. And if I show all wiring, that'll pull everything. And that's basically what I have on here right now. As I was playing with this, I found something that I thought was interesting. As you see right now, I'm outputting 5,000, which is giving me some input here, and I'm putting out 2,500 here. Gives me this number here. Remember that I said that the raw number is 0 to 10,000. So I'm not doing any scaling right now. I'm not doing any formatting. But one thing I noticed, this is interesting. Notice these two numbers here. That's what I'm currently outputting. If I go back to Crimson, and let's say in Crimson, I'm just going to be weird. I'm just going to add a dot to the screen. We can make a small change here to the screen. And if I go ahead and download this to the HMI, or down to the FlexEdge here, and if I go back to the web server, of course, I got to reset all wiring to see everything. Here's what I think is interesting. Notice the outputs. These are the tags that are mapped directly to the output channel. They still have the number, but my inputs are back to 0. So what I just find fascinating is that this number is here, but there's nothing going out. So that's weird. So if I click here and ironically put in the exact same number, nothing really happens. However, if I click here and put in, say, 5001, suddenly it refreshes. So there must be something behind the scenes that even though this number is there, it's not getting forced to go out, which leads to a little bit more of an example I want to do is I want to make these values always be going out to the output. And so let me show you my fix here. So in Crimson, and I'm just going to go over here to data tags, and here's the tags. If I click on output 1, that is mapped to, and I'll hit the pick button, mapped to the analog outputs data output 1. And that field is coming from this box right here. And remember this trick, folks. You can always right click on something on the screen and you can do the jump to, and that'll always take you to that tag. So this is mapped to outputs data 1. And if I go down here to modules, click on outputs data 1, there's the output for that guy. Okay. And of course, if I go back to data tags, that is directly connected to PV4, which according to this input PV4 is this guy right here, 0 to 20. And that is really, team, that is the green wire here that is on this label. That's those two closed connectors. All right. So my goal is to somehow or another make this output always be holding a number and forcing it. Now you see here, you can't do a retentive or anything, so because it's directly mapped. So I'm going to try something. I'm going to click new tag here, and I'm going to call this one output underscore 1. Oops, that's not a 1. Retentive. Okay. And I'm going to go down here to where it says non-retentive, and I'm going to make it retentive. That way the FlexEdge or the Redline product will keep it. Okay, that looks good. All good there. I'm going to go over to, let's see, how can I do this? I can do this many different ways. I'm going to go over here to programs. I'm going to do this way in programs, and I'm going to write a simple program, and I'm basically going to take the original output, drag it here, and I'll do a space equals space, and I'm going to take the internal output right there and do a semicolon. So in reality here, this value here is going to be written into here. Okay. Now, notice the diamond over here is yellow. It's because I haven't translated. So when I click out here, this green button right here is to translate. I'll click that button. Boom. Code looks fine. Okay. I'm going to run this. This is the next trick. I'm going to run this once a second in this case. So I'm going to click on display pages over here. I'm going to click maybe up here in the pages. And in the pages, if I go over here to the right side, can I move this thing out of the way? Go to the right side and go down to programs in the lower right. I'm just going to grab this program and run it out here, put it out here in the on tick field. So it should execute once a second, and it should continue to put that out. Now I am going to go to my main display page. I'm going to get rid of this yellow dot here. And if I go to data tags, I'm going to grab our new retentive tag, and I'm going to right click and do same size as one of these guys, okay? And maybe I'll right click and copy from, all formatting this guy, okay? However, I'm going to make the border of this one be blue. So I'm going to double click just because it's a blue tag here. So I'm going to make the edge be blue. That's my weird way to kind of, indicate that it's an internal tag. All right, you can see that the box has a background on it. Means it's data entry and setup. So I think I'm about ready to try this. Let me align this with one of these. Okay, so in theory, this is going to actually go to this tag. I guess I could bring this out here. Let me bring this guy out here. Whoops. I need to move this out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to copy from, all formatting, and I'll do this one. And I'll do right click, same size as. All right, and we'll just align this with the left of. Oh, that guy right there. Okay, maybe I won't. I'll look. Align with left of. That's not going to work. Yep. Oh well, we'll just do that. All right, let's try it, team. I'm going to save it. I want you to see that on the web browser, there's the values. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and download this. So I'm going to hit the Shazam button here. We'll download it to the screen. All right. And let's go back to the web browser and see what happens here. Okay, we saw something interesting there. Let's turn on the current so we can see that. And let's put in the number 5,000 this time. All right, you saw a little delay, 1 second, perfect. Now my test of this, my true test, this is retentive. I don't know how often it retains or how often it writes. So I'm going to try it here on the fly. Let me go back to Crimson. And on Crimson, just like that previous test I did, I'm going to grab a dot and drag it out there. My theory is I'm going to download this. This retentive tag should keep the value of 5,000. It should force it here and go up. Remember before when I downloaded this, these held the numbers, but the output really didn't get the signal. So let's go ahead and see if this happens. I'll go ahead and download it. Go over here to our browser and see what happens. Oh, of course I got to turn on the current wiring to see. Wow. So this is writing that number to there, but it's not going out. That is fascinating. That is really fascinating. Why? Why is this value not getting out? Is there some setting in the card? So if I go over to Crimson, let me look at the analog output. Nothing there. What's this initial value? It doesn't make sense to me. This no, the initial value, that doesn't make sense. No, the value really should be this program is taking the retentive and put it into here, which should execute. Wow, that's fascinating. Let's try one more thing here. I'm just going to be devil's advocate. I'm going to just try something weird. I'm going to put a random 1, just a slight change. That's all, okay? So I'm going to save this. Let's go ahead and download this and let's see what happens. Interesting. That random one made just a little trigger. So if I change this to 6,000, huh, that's a fascinating trick I just did there. I made just a slight change, which caused it to, I think, work. But let me try my test again. I'm going to put a different colored ball on here and see what happens. So remember the number 6,000. So back here in Crimson, I'm going to grab one of these. I'll do a green ball just for giggles. And let's download this. Let's see what it does. I'll pull up the current wiring. I should have had it on by default, but nope. Wow, that's fascinating. Why is this, which is running every second, putting into here? Oh, that's interesting. That is, let me go back to Crimson. I'm back in Crimson. I'm running this program on tick. Let me double check. Yeah. I mean, I could, I don't know why that, but I could also run it here on the properties of this page. I don't fascinate what would be the difference here, but if I go here, okay, and I got that, that's just a small, so this number plus this shouldn't be much of a change. Let's go ahead and download this to it. Let's see what it does. Huh. You know what's interesting is I would have expected this number to have changed a little bit. So since the random one isn't really changing, let's change this number to, I don't know, let's do 100, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to translate. I'm going to download this to the unit. Let's see if this number changes by 100 every, actually it's this number. Okay, that's changing. Oh, okay, let me try my trick once again. I'm going to add a different colored ball to it, and let's see if that is a big enough change to cause that code to execute. So if I go back to Crimson, and Crimson, I'll go to display pages, and I'll go over here to print. I'm going to grab just a different colored ball this time, put it out there. All right, let's download and let's see what this does. So that's a big enough change to cause that to execute. Fascinating. Let's try one more. Instead of that random going all the way up to number 100, let's change that to just maybe two. Let's just try something small. We tried one, didn't do anything. Let's try two. Let's see if that's enough change to cause it to work. Okay, so that wrote it across. There's some number there. Okay, let's go try my idea with the ball. So back on Crimson, I'm going to go to display page and grab a different, just another circle ball here. And let's download that and let's see what it does. Okay. Yeah, that seems to be working. Interesting. Fascinating.